Despite what you hear, we are winning. Now look, I get it. If you only consume the headlines, it feels like the world is ending every single day. Authoritarianism is rising, institutions are under stress, democracy is on life support. And look, it's earned. That anxiety is totally earned. It's real. But here's what doesn't get enough airtime. The pushback is working. Resistance is winning. It's not instant, it's not perfect, and it's not with fireworks, but it's happening consistently. So instead of the doom scrolling, let's talk about the 8 biggest wins of 2025, starting with number 8. The polls. When Donald Trump first took office, his approval rating was at or above 50%. Yeah, and there was a brief moment, a cursed moment, where more Americans liked him than didn't. Fast forward to now, of course, Trump is out there claiming he's got the best polling numbers ever, which is cute. It's like a guy insisting that he's in the best shape of his life while he wheezes through a flight of stairs. Is that too close to home? I hope not. The reality is devastating. Poll after poll is showing Trump is absolutely underwater. Not a little damp, not dog paddling, fully submerged, bubbles rising. We're seeing some polls 21% difference. Hell, even Real Clear Politics, they usually bend a little to the right. They are showing that Trump and his imaginary friends have their numbers cratering. And here's the part that all the pundits are screwing up. Trump has not lost his base. He's just lost literally everybody else, which tells us everything we need to know. His base isn't a coalition, it's a frickin' fan club. It's a grievance-based loyalty program where the merch sucks. These aren't people who care what policies Trump enacts. These are people who don't care if the economy actually improves. They don't care if anything works. Hell, they'd follow Trump into battle on those little wooden horses they hold between their legs, and Trump would still be the guy tattling to mom that the other kids called him names. That's not strength, that's containment. Authoritarians, they don't scream when they're winning. They scream when they realize they can't grow. They can't move forward. And when movements stop growing and stop moving forward, they stop self-reflecting. They start investigating their enemies. Which brings us to Congress. That's number 7, the congressional hearings. And look, I hear this all the time. Congressional hearings for years were content farms. Nothing more than sound bites, viral clips, campaign ads, everyone playing to the camera. But in 2025, something is shifting, because now hearings are no longer about scoring points. They're about building a record and holding people accountable. We saw it. Kristi Noem literally running out of a hearing when the questions got uncomfortable. Not metaphorically. She didn't dodge a question. She physically left the room. Look, if you're leaving a congressional hearing, that's not a scheduling conflict. That's the soul leaving your body right ahead of you. We also saw all the confirmation hearings expose exactly who this administration is appointing to run our government. These are people who look very confident on comfortable cable news channels, but then they get extremely confused when their resume meets reality. And here's the key difference. These officials aren't being shouted out. They're not being pointed out on camera. They're being questioned under oath. Under oath is the political version of taking the batteries out of the spin machine. Suddenly, everyone forgets how confident they were 5 minutes ago. Because the answers matter. The evasions matter. The refusals matter most of all. Because we're keeping track. Every single contradiction gets logged. Every walkout is noted. And every non-answer is evidence. Yeah, look, the hearings aren't feeling like justice right now, but we are building a record, and we will hold these people accountable. Which brings me to, where are we going to bring these people to answer for all of their crimes? And that's my number 6, the courts. We are winning in the courts at an unprecedented pace. One of the biggest myths of the Trump era is that the courts have been captured. Judges are powerless. The rule of law was just a suggestion written in pencil. But the numbers are saying otherwise. Since Trump returned to office, his administration has been buried under litigation. Not because activists are bored, because his policies are breaking the law. Look, by most legal tallies, looking at all the trackers out there, Trump has lost roughly 93% of the cases that have been brought against his administration so far. 93%. That's not bad luck. That's not partisan judging. That is legal strategy face planting into reality. Education policy alone has triggered more than 70 lawsuits in 2025. We also see it in immigration, labor, civil service, environmental rules. It's the same pattern every time. Trump announces some executive order, usually written by Stephen Miller. A press release comes out in all caps, Truth Social blowing up, and then the judge reads the statute. He reads the law. Blocked, right then and there. Sure, the administration treats the law like it treats the terms and conditions. Nobody reads it, everybody just scrolls by and clicks agree. But then they act shocked when the law gets enforced. Judges aren't just saying, hey, we don't like this. We're not just saying, hey, you don't have the authority to do this. No, look, litigation's not sexy. There's no chance, no crowd shot, no dopamine hit. But every injunction buys time. And every ruling is building precedent for the future. And every loss tightens the box around this Trump administration. The courts are slowing things down, and they are winning. And then the states and your local officials, they're taking all of this personally. And that brings me to number 5. One of the biggest wins has been seeing some of our state and local elected officials standing up to the brutality of the Trump regime. We've had governors, mayors, all. They stopped waiting for Washington to start acting like adults. They stepped in, publicly and aggressively, with receipts. And I'll even add, these are not always politicians that I've always seen as a leader of our movement. Like Gavin Newsom. He didn't just criticize Trump. He's called out federal immigration crackdowns as lawless behavior. The National Guard being deployed to his state, he stopped it. Hell, he even won one of Trump's famous handshake battles. And then Newsom didn't stop. He's become a champion of the meme wars. He's trolling with jurisdiction. Tim Walz, he's watched the administration absolutely trash Minnesota, including calling Somali communities garbage. So Walz, he's done something radical for most politicians. Instead of hedging and just playing for the cameras, he's defended his constituents. Sure, he's been in public trading insults with the president because sometimes clarity does matter a little bit more than decorum. But Minnesota is not a testing ground for xenophobic policy experiments. Then we've seen officials who stopped talking and started using their bodies. In New York City, we had a comptroller, Brad Lander. He's been arrested multiple times for physically blocking ICE from arresting people in courthouses. Courthouses! The place where you are supposed to feel the safest interacting with your government. Getting arrested blocking ICE, that's not a PR strategy, it's a values audit. In Newark, we've seen local officials, including their mayor, get arrested defending their communities. They didn't back down. Minneapolis, Chicago, Portland, all passing laws to limit the lazy tactics of ICE. This isn't just symbolic resistance. This is friction. This is action. And look, authoritarians like Trump, they love vertical control. Orders flow down, fear flows out. What breaks that model is horizontal resistance. Governors saying no, mayors refusing to cooperate, local officials forcing explanations. So when Washington and the Trump regime overreaches, the cameras turn on and our locals step up. Which brings me to number 4. The media is pushing back against the Trump regime. For a long time, media criticism lived in 2 safe zones. You had your late night jokes that were dismissed as comedy, and you also had serious reporting, but they were always buried under ratings pushes. That all stopped working in 2025. Stephen Colbert hammered Trump so relentlessly that executives began asking if comedy had gone too far. Sure, they canceled him, but he is obliterating the president night in and night out, which is hilarious given that the subject is a man who tried to overthrow the government and sells NFTs of himself as Rambo. That really happened. Jimmy Kimmel got suspended after segments that were simply telling the truth. And if these jokes are dangerous, it means they're landing. We've seen South Park. They did everything that they always have done, but in the face of a takeover of Paramount that shifted that network and that streaming platform far to the right. South Park turned Trump into a grotesque cartoon and dared the suits to blink. They dared them to blink, and guess who's winning? South Park. And when South Park is your most reliable truth teller, something has gone deeply wrong with journalism. Which brings me to another Paramount-owned property, 60 Minutes. They just scrapped a story that made the Trump administration look like the monsters they are. And thank God that that segment aired in Canada. And for the record, here at Ring of Fire, we're not telling you to go look for some pirated copy of Inside CECOT, that's C-E-C-O-T. Definitely, please don't go Google that story and watch it. And despite the algorithm doing its damnedest to silence people like us, independent media has never stopped. Folks like Ring of Fire and all of our friends out there on social media and on YouTube, everywhere you see good content, we're still following the money. We're still tracking corruption. We are saying the quiet part out loud. Look, Trump needs the media to cooperate. That's why he's trying to cancel people and take over networks. Trump needs silence. He needs normalization. What he can't handle is somebody mocking him and then documenting with receipts. He can't handle it. And when the story stops being manageable, we count on it leaking overseas. Which brings me to international accountability. Look, Trump positions himself overseas as a strongman, and he's relied on polite silence for years. World leaders smiled with photos. They uncomfortably shook his hand. Sometimes they may have made a face over a smell they may have wafted their way from Trump. And they always translated Trump's nonsense into something usable. Well, that era is over. European leaders are openly mocking Trump. He mixed up Armenia and Albania, and they laughed right there in his face. This is the geopolitical equivalent of everyone at the dining table over Christmas shifting uncomfortably because their drunk Uncle Donnie just confused Italy with IKEA. Somewhere a State Department intern, they aged 10 years in real time from this. And heck, Greenland is still publicly rebuking Trump's renewed colonialism. We saw Trump over in Japan, where they had to correct this wandering, bumbling buffoon so gently that it felt like helping a substitute teacher find the right classroom. And at the UN, Trump gave a speech about peace that landed somewhere between performance art and group therapy. All of the foreign diplomats laughed at him, openly. Trump survives on the illusion of strength, and this mockery punctures it. Fear travels downward, and mockery travels faster. And the world, when they stop humoring you, leverage disappears. Which brings me to number 2, elections. We have leverage now. For all of the noise about the Democratic collapse, 2025 delivered an inconvenient truth. Voting still works. The American people still have a voice. Across all of these special and off-cycle elections, Democrats kept winning races that Republicans thought were locked down. And we won with something extremely dangerous to the MAGA crowd: consistency. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Jersey. Voters weren't just inspired, they were exhausted. These were not novelty votes, they were anti-chaos votes. We've seen new leaders emerging. They didn't run as saviors, they ran as adults. Healthcare, costs, schools, competence. These are the things that matter to voters, not some made-up culture war. What a wild concept. This isn't a blue wave. Instead, it's a blue flood. The waters, they're slowly rising, and it won't be quick to recede. And frankly, the damage done to the Republican Party will never go away. And that's how you grow something real. Our elections don't need to be revolutionary. They just need to be consistent. And when people keep voting, movements, they start having to answer to math. Which leaves me to number 1, protests. After everything else, this is the win that towers over the rest. We saw millions of people showing up for protests like no kings. Not riots, not chaos, peaceful, disciplined, patriotic resistance. Even the Wall Street Journal admitted that these were calm and civic-minded protests. The ACLU estimates more than 7 million people participated in the last round of protests. 7 million. That's not a trend. That's mass participation. No violence, no riots, just strength and strength in numbers. It turns out that when people feel visible, they do not feel the need to burn things down. These protests were creative. They were absurd. They were joyful. Shout out to the inflatable costumes, the frog especially, near the ICE buildings. And yeah, the penis costume in rural Alabama, even after facing arrest. Strongmen, they can handle rage, but they cannot handle peaceful resistance at scale. You can't arrest 7 million people. You can't gaslight a crowd that big. You can't call them fringe anymore when they are America. Look, our republic is not as fragile as the people that are trying to break it. The No Kings protests and all the ICE protests, they don't demand a savior. They rallied around a principle. No kings, no one is above the law, and that is an idea that is deeply American. And that terrifies all of these Trumpers, all these MAGA people that are relying on your obedience and your silence. So look, yeah, the news, they want you scared because fear keeps you quiet. And the Trump regime is taking over the news. But 2025 told a different story. The polls boxed them in. The courts slowed them down. Hearings are building receipts. States and local communities have said, this is not happening in my backyard. The media has stopped whispering, and the world has stopped pretending. Voters are showing up, and then millions of you showed up in the streets and said, we will not be governed by a king. That's not collapse. This is resistance with muscle memory. Democracy is not dead, it just stopped being polite. And the people betting on your exhaustion just realized something terrifying. You're still here, and you still give a shit. This is Ring of Fire Weekends. Have a happy holiday, and we'll see you in 2026. Thanks for watching that video. Be sure to like and share it all over the place. And then during the week, catch Jared. I'll be back next weekend with more Ring of Fire Weekends. Be sure to like and subscribe.